Hello good people and welcome to the Peasant Gamers yet again. And today we will take a look at the game called Astellia Online, I believe, and it was released in the Western servers in 2019, but then it's been recently launched in Steam as well, and there's a lot of reviews out there obviously, and you can go check them out on your own wheel. But today I want to talk about what the game itself is in this video. This is going to be two parts. This video will focus on the features of the game. I'm not gonna do a review or anything. I'm not gonna share most of my opinions. So if you want my opinions on what the good and the bad of the game is, you can go to the link in the description and jump to that other video. This game, however, we will only talk about what's in the game and what you can expect from the game. First of all, let's look at the character creation. So in the character creation you get 5 classes: warrior, assassin, archer, scholar and mage. Generic MMO class system, with the warrior being the tank, the scholar being the healer. These all range in difficulty. Some of them are 2 stars while others happen to be 5 star, meaning that there's a little bit of combo involved. However, this is not by all means a true 5 star. If you compare it with a Blade and Soul 5 star, this is like 2 star or 3 star by Blade and Soul standards. So it's not difficult at all. Honestly, this game is pretty easy. It's a very simple game. The classes sadly come with race lock, so there is no races involved. Obviously there's 2. There's a lolly version, as you can see here, and there's a human version, but they are all race locked, so you cannot choose which race you want to be in which class. Now, some of the classes are even gender locked. You can only be the female, which is quite weird because you kind of start thinking, how do they even make babies, right? I mean, they just split like bacteria. Yeah, but I'm going off topic. Anyway, that's the skill. Every character can go into 3 different progressions or advancements. So my mage could go into being a wizard, a sorcerer, and a witch. Right, next, the character creation. So the character creation is actually pretty good. Let's go for an archer here. So I have a female class, which I cannot be male. Now you get your basic presets. You can have body presets, but who cares about that? But yeah, there's that if you're lazy. There's the appearance section where you can tile things to a little bit. This is your base palette basically, so you can choose what kind of face you want to go with, and your face shape, hair, eyes. Honestly, the customization in the game is really intense, and you can spend quite a lot of time trying to fix your character. Next, in the next tab you will see all the details. So I choose my face, and then I can do all sorts of things with my face. You have tons of sliders to make whatever you want. Honestly, the game is amazing in terms of character creation. So there's that. Right, so the graphics and the optimization of the game, and let's look a bit into the game world. So the game is open world, they say, but then it's a little bit of instance-ish. So you get a loading screen between each world. Now if I open up my map, I can show you that this is a zone, this is a world basically. It's really big, there's lots of towns and all, and you can interact and play with every other player. So let me see if I can find a player. Yeah, so there's one player here, he's kind of farming with his Estelle, which we'll talk about later. Right, so the world looks beautiful, and it's actually very, very nice. It's built on the Unreal Engine, so obviously it's gonna look nice, but then the graphics requires you know, to play at really good frames and with such high quality, you kinda need a very good gaming system. Okay, so I've talked a little bit about the character progression and after level 15, which I'm gonna show you here further on. So every class will get 3 evolution or awakened states. In my case, I can be a wizard, a sorcerer, or a witch. I chose to be a wizard. Apparently it's the highest DPS character. Now with every advancement you have to spend XP to unlock your evolution. So in order to be a wizard I have to spend 1,000,000 XP in order to be a wizard. Keep in mind, I can switch between any of these classes anytime I want, but then I would have to spend XP in order to change classes. And if I go to a sorcerer, I have a 2-star wizard, but then I will be a 0-star sorcerer. But then if I go back to a wizard, I will be again a 2-star wizard, so keep that in mind. You can always change between that. So every awakened classes will give you certain class specific skills. So for example, in my case, I get a new damage boost skill, some sort of AoE skills which I will experience later on. That's the character progression and awakened state. Next up, let's talk about the combat. The combat and the game mechanics itself is obviously tap targeting, because it's the most generic game in the market. Now the difference is that there's a little bit of pet system here, which I will talk in detail later on, but for now let's focus on the combat. So the combat would be totally tap targeting. So if I select this guy with my target, I can move around. There's certain skills that you have to combo, but not necessarily, you know, a big deal. The skills, you get a ton of skills. You get too many skills actually. There's about 20 to 25 skills, as you can see. All of the skills can be, well, some of the skills can be leveled up with certain buffs. So for example, one of my skill can be leveled up to increase its status accuracy, meaning you can land the status or the debuff, or I can increase the debuff duration, or in some cases I can reduce the cooldown or increase the damage output. So it depends on the skills. Some of the skills cannot be altered at all. This boot icon, it shows you whether your skill will root you or not. So if it has a blue icon, it means I can move while casting this skill. If it doesn't, I'm locked. Basically I cannot move, and if I move, it cancels the skill. You can stack skills as well depending on how you want to combo your skills as well. So for example, in this case I have the pillar and the hellfire, which I combo together, so I don't have to press another button, so I can just constantly press the 2 but number 3. I can have this one brought over here and so on. Also keep in mind that the game kind of plays out rather slow. It's not as slow as Final Fantasy combat, but it's slightly slow. It's not as fluid or quick as you would imagine it to be, but it's still okay. I mean, it's not terrible, honestly. It's fine. Next, let's look at the questing. The questing in the game is as simple and generic as it gets. You have kill this many, kill that many, bring that many, and bring that. That's about it. Every quest is green. As you can see, these are your side quests or your normal quests. If you go into your quest tab, you will see other quests that are orange or red in color, which would be your main quest, or your storyline quest. These are very important, and also you have quests to get all this pet as well. Now once you reach level, well, those quests will be enough to get you to level 50, and it takes apparently about 25 hours of gameplay to get you to level 50, but in my case I took about 50 hours, so it depends on how quickly or intensely you play the game. Once you reach level 50, then you have all these purple quests, which are your daily quests, and this would probably be your most important quest, as this will give you the most amount of reward. Also keep in mind that you cannot power level a low level to quickly get to level 50. If the level difference is greater than 10 levels, you cannot progress with the quest, because the drop rates drop significantly and it doesn't help your progression at all. It applies the same with dungeons as well. You cannot enter a dungeon when your characters, with your friend or your partner, whatever, it's greater than 10 levels. So you cannot do dungeons with a level 50 and a 30. Okay, now let's take a look at the stat system. So in this game, the game features 8 base stats and everything reflects on it. So for your physical class, you have certain skills, stats like the strength, agility, dexterity, and concentration. It tells you what it does. I'm not going to go over it. And for the magic class, you have intelligence, wisdom, knowledge, and willpower. Everything has its own descriptions and you can read it. That said, however, even though these are magical and these are physical stats, you can every class can benefit from the stats. So for example, even in my mage class, which is a magical class, I can still benefit from the agility of a physical class. I've found this because even though I use agility gear, I still get critical accuracy. So that's something to consider. It's not as good as you would get from a wisdom gear, but you still can benefit slightly from it.
Every stat can be leveled up 5 times. As you can see, it's plus 5, and every time you upgrade a stat, you basically get a chance of increasing your stat by a certain amount. I'm gonna show you by resetting my willpower. I have 2 plus 2 on this, and you can reset the stats anytime you want so that you can re-roll and get better stats, which I'm gonna demonstrate to you. If I click here, I can reset the 2 stats I have invested. So I'm gonna reset it. Mine was at 7.4%. Now I'm gonna click. I have 2 more stats which I can put in. I'm gonna click the plus. I have the choice between common, uncommon, rare, and heroic, which I don't really have at my inventory right now. So if I use a common one, the chances of me getting my stat is from 0.5 to 3.4%. Now, however, if I use a better quality one, I get the chance from 1.1 to 4.3. So depending on the quality and rarity of the material I'm gonna invest, I get better chances of getting higher base stat. So I'm gonna use the uncommon one for now. There, I got 4.1%. I'm gonna do it once more. And now I got 1.3, which is really terrible. I started out with 7%, now I only have 5%, so I'm gonna reset this sometime and just get better and better stats as you go along. And these stat points you get from your Estelle collection, your pet system. So if you have maxed out your entire pet system collection, you will probably have enough points to invest in all of the stats. So that's something to keep in mind. Another stat, which is not really a stat, but it is a stat anyway. So every one of your trophy, which is an extra gear set, will have a certain stat to it. Here I have a passionate, and here I have endurance. This is the stat that will determine what kind of deck effect you will have, and this affects your character. Next, let's look at the gear system. So the gear starts from 4 grades. So we have common, uncommon, rare, and heroic. Actually there's 5 actually, because there's legendary, which I can show you. I can unequip one, and there you go. I have a legendary, heroic, and so on. Now every gear in the game has a very good look to it. Even doesn't matter if your gear is low level or not, it has a very good look to it. I'm gonna show you. It's a level 15 uncommon, but it has a complete set of appearance. Now keep in mind that these gears do not change the way your character looks. Only the armor and the weapon will change your character's appearance. It's somewhat similar or akin to Terra, where the armor plays the major role in your appearance. Now let's just quickly go over the characters and how the armor will change the appearance of your gear. Also, keep in mind that you also have another set of costumes which you can put, but then apparently my gear and my costume look the same, so it doesn't really change anything for me. Speaking about gear, all the gears can be upgraded to a certain limit. For example, a rare gear can be enhanced up to level 7, whereas a legendary or a heroic can be leveled up, I think it's 10. Yeah, so legendary can be upgraded 10 times. The way you do the upgrade is you click on this button and you just enhance it using these fragments which you get using salvaging. When you salvage a gear, you basically get this material which you can upgrade your other gears with. Remember that once you hit +3, the gear can have a chance to fail enhancement, and also once you reach +7, the gear has a chance to roll back. So if you're trying to go to +9, if it fails, it can go back to a +7, so keep that in mind. The next thing is item fusion. For this I don't really have anything to show you, but once your legendary gear turns into +7, you can fuse it with 2 other legendary gears, which is determined by the type of gear you have, and the set will fuse itself into tier 2. here is a tier 1 weapon which I can fuse into a tier 2 weapon which will have greater stats. As for the gears, every gear can have runes equipped to them, so if I click this equip rune button, and there you go. Every gear can have 5 runes at a time. There's no limit to how much, what kind of stat you can. So for example, I can have 2 runes of HP, it doesn't matter. I can have other runes as well. The runes are of 2 types, defense and attack types. Next, let's take a look at crafting system. It's actually quite weird because in the gathering skills you can only be one type. There's 5 of them, I believe, and you can only be one gathering profession in a character. You can reset it, but then it takes so long to level it up that I don't see anyone wanting to reset your gathering skill. For the crafting though, this is a different story. There's lots of crafting options here and you can master any of them, which is quite weird because it should be the other way around. You should be able to gather everything and you should be able to master only one. This is really weird. And as for the energy, there is no stamina on crafting gear, which is quite good actually, because you're not limited by how much you can craft. You can do it constantly every freaking hour if you are so into that kind of thing. So you can totally be a complete crafting maniac and no one will stop you. One thing to keep in mind is that in the game you can craft everything, every end game material. So I'm talking about gears, runes, food, everything you can be crafted. So if I click on this one, I can craft a heroic gear, but then I have a chance of getting a critical or a success rate, which will give me a legendary gear. It's not totally crafting legendary gear per se, but then you still can get it. Right, next let's look at the PvE content. The PvE content comes in the form of dungeons and Colosseum. That's weird because usually Colosseum is a PvP event, but here it's a PvE event and it's an arena of killing monster waves after waves. Now the dungeon there's a lot of dungeons. I would say it's a pretty decent amount. It's not a lot by any means, but it's there, it's okay. It starts from level 15 all the way up to level max, and once you get to level max, every dungeon becomes a level 50 legendary dungeon. As you can see, a level 15 dungeon has become a legendary level 50, which significantly increases the difficulty of the game, the rewards, and also the game mechanics of the dungeon is changed significantly. Every dungeon requires a certain amount of tickets to go into the dungeon. Example, this one uses 2 tickets, and the tickets you have will be shown here, which is 24 at maximum. The tickets replenish over a time period. As you can see, it takes about 30 minutes to get one more ticket. Also, you can get every legendary stuff from the dungeon, but keep in mind that this kind of legendary and heroic gear will be bound on pickup, and you can unbind them using a BWAX token. Let's look at the PvP content as well. In the PvP content we have Avalon and the Duel Arena. Avalon is an open world PvP area where there's 3 factions fighting against each other, namely the Fight, EOS and Series, and these 3 will be randomly assigned to you. Every week it will be randomly assigned to your character. Also, if a guild member enters the dungeon, as you can read from here, the world faction area, the entire guild will be given the faction that you are randomly assigned with. So if I go in and I get EOS, then every guild member becomes an EOS. Keep in mind that's the first player who enters the world area. So guild members can fight together. This kind of faction system is very similar to Terra or Guild Wars World vs World, but it's not that amazing. But it's there, and it's pretty much the biggest PvP event here in the game. Obviously, you have the Duel Arena, which you can do as a solo or team match. Let's look at the guild system. So the guild system has a level system to it. I don't really know exactly what you benefit from the level. I suppose it has something to do with the maximum number of players you can have in the guild. I have not much experience with this because the game doesn't really feel like you need a guild to be a good part of the game, so I just joined something that they asked me to join. I'm not even French, but I'm there. So that's the guild system. The guilds are okay, but there is no incentive for you to want to join a guild. There is no guild base or anything. Now, next, let's look at the cash shop. The cash shop offers not so much pay-to-win material. So, for example, there is nothing specifically that gives you any extra benefit other than cosmetics and some, I don't know, convenience stuff. But many people argue that because in this game, if you die, you get a debuff which reduces your HP and your stats as well if you die a certain amount. But with an item in the market, you can remove this debuff. So this is the stuff that people complain about. So you get a 60 days buff for your character that allows you to resurrect without the debuff. So you're immediately at an advantage if you say you do 1v1 and then you resurrect. The one who doesn't have this debuff is obviously much better than you because he has higher HP, better stats and all of that. So that's why people complain that it's kind of pay to win. Next, let's look at Zenter's shop. Zenter is a currency you get from doing activities, achievements, dungeons and so on. And you can buy all sorts of stuff, including dungeon tickets, which you can do even more dungeons with. You get Beeswax, which is used to unbind bound gear. There's also Blessed Resurrection stuff in case you want to catch up with the pay-to-win people. For those who are unable to pay cash, you can also use dungeon materials to buy that Blessed Resurrection so that you don't lose your stats when you die. That's gonna be the base stats of the game, which you can find across every other MMO. Now let's look at the unique things that this game brings to the table. First off, I'll talk about Startale. This is like an adventure achievement thing, but this is actually worth it because, as you can see, every region has a certain achievement to it. There's hidden boxes you have to go around and explore. There's vistas and viewpoints just like in Guild Wars 2. There's dungeons you have to complete. There's ancient monsters you have to kill. There's also field bosses that you can have to kill. Once you have done with all of this, and there's also certain little quests to it, mini quests, these are not guided by any way, so this is complete exploration mode, so you'll have to figure it out. There's also guides out there, you can always check them out. The rewards are the main thing here. So every time you progress further into your exploration in every region, you reach a certain point where you get rewards. The best part about this is that you get your pets. You get really good grade of pets. For example, this is a 3-star and this is a 5-star. The other unique thing that the game brings into the table is what I would call as the treasure system. So the treasure system doesn't really affect your character much significantly, but the good thing about this is that you get stats for your pets, which I'm gonna talk about now. So this is the pet system, which is the main theme around the game. These are called Astels, and these are pets that you can summon and they will fight for you. There's gonna be 3 classes. Well, actually, there's gonna be several classes, which are the tanks, the warriors, the fighters. Basically, the next one would be the assassins, the scholars, the healers, basically, the archers, the ranged DPS, and again, where is it? Right, the mages, the sorcerer version, and the muse, which is like a support buff mystic thing. It's not a Pokemon capture thing, remember that. This is something you unlock slowly. So by the time I reach level 50, I have almost every card, every pet except for this 2. I guess except for this one, I have almost every pet. Now the problem is that you have to level it up on the grade. So for this one I have a 3-star pet, which means I have to get a certain amount of cards. Every time you get a card, you get points which are added into the card level, and it so increases your star points. It can be increased up to 10 points. Once it reaches 5-star, it becomes pink and then goes all the way again. Now every character has certain skills which are auto attack, which you do on their own, or you will also have what's called as, where is it? I want to find my Drago. Where's my Drago? God, right. There's my Drago, and as you can see, you have what's called a co-op skill. Depending on the class, it will change. So whenever I use these two skills, it's gonna do a combo skill along with me. So that's something you have to consider. Next is a special skill which you can activate with the skill button. For example, I have my Ada, which is a healer. Now, if I fight with her, she's gonna do damage and heal me at the same time. Auto. There's no influence from me. But if I want something from her, I can use this Love's End, which is gonna put a debuff on the enemy, so I can use it and she will do the damage. Every pet in the game, or every Estelle in the game, is of different rarity. This is the Servant class, and next you will have the Savior class, and you will have the Guardian classes. The Guardians are pretty much some of the strongest Estelles you can have permanently, whereas the Savior, these are really good, but then these are very temporary. You can summon them for only about a minute or so. I can show you. This is a Savior. I have a Savior level 50 Eligos, which I can summon, which consumes a huge amount of energy, but then it doesn't stay for long. For example, it's gonna go down, and so when it reaches 0, it's just gonna poof, disappear. Now, the game provides options to summon 3 Estelles at a time in the event that you can keep them up with using your Estelle energy. So I can have 3 pets out at the same time, but then again, it requires so much energy that I cannot have them out together for a long period of time. In combat, I can swap and switch them out anytime I want, provided I have the energy with me. So there's a lot of micromanagement that you can do. Every pet can equip star jewels, which are almost like the rune system in your gear. Every stat gives you certain stuff, and once it's filled up, you can enhance it up to a certain level. So I have enhanced this 4 times, which means it has pretty much 20 runes in total with him. Now let's talk about the important thing, which is called the deck effect. Now the deck effect is very important because it gives your character some certain benefits. For example, if I have a Virgo and a Venetia in my skill tab, it's gonna give me certain points with each character, and this increases with the level of your card. Once I have a certain point to it, I'm gonna get increased XP or reduced Estelle energy. Every character has a certain deck effect to it, which you can organize. I mean, some are really good because there's a chance that you will be resurrected immediately upon death. Next part, let's look at the currency. The game features a variety of currencies in the game, the Asper being the main gold currency. You have certain things like ancient fragments, shining gold, and so on. All of this can be earned separately. They have their own dedicated quest to it. And the most important, I believe, is going to be the Holy Order symbol, which you will get a lot of from doing your level 50 dailies. And in fact, it's pretty much the only source to get this one. And this is the one you'll use to buy legendary gear. And yes, if you're wondering, yes, you can control your pets. So let's say I have my Ada here. I can command her to be in the offensive, to fight or to not fight. Or I can change it to active mode, which will attack any target I'm attacking or that's attacking me. And also you can change it to long range mode or close range mode, and you can unsummon everything with the click of a button. Because there's some boss mechanics where you have to immediately unsummon your characters, or else the pet will die and it enters into a really long cooldown. So in order to avoid that, you do some kind of trick where you just unsummon your pets altogether. Once the damage is done, you summon them out again. Anyway, I think that's gonna be it for the game feature video. Let me know if I've left out anything, or that if there's something that you want to know more about. If it's important enough, I'm gonna make a video on it. If it's not, I'm gonna discuss it with you in the comment section down below. Finally, go check out the other video about my impressions and my opinion, my final review basically on the video. I'm gonna link it down in the description so you can find there, go check it out and see, just to see whether it's worth spending £29 on the game. Also, if there's any kind of guide that you want me to do on some specific things, like maybe building your stat, how to obtain gear, and so on and so on, let me know. Yeah, I'll consider to do the video if I feel like I have enough authority or experience on that subject. Anyway, that's it though. Thank you for watching. I've been your host, Tiny Spear, and I will see you on the next one.